Yeah, so I studied graphic design and graduated around, I think, 2001. And I worked for a couple agencies and then eventually went on my own. I did some teaching in Komashu as well with Vega. I used to be a lecturer there as well. So I've got a passion for creativity, but I've also got a passion for impacting community.
Yeah, that's
cool. And as my career has progressed, I've gotten to the point where I started thinking, what can I do to give back to the community?
Yes.
What can I do to help younger artists? And how can I feel more fulfilled? I believe you can do work and you can feel good about it, but you sometimes can feel better when you're making a bigger impact when it's not just about yourself, when you're including other people. So SOUTHAPEDIA, South obviously relates to South Africa, or South as in where we are geographically, and pedia comes from the meaning to discover.
Okay.
So SOUTHAPEDIA is the name of the mural program and the festival that we've done, which alludes to the fact of discovering things of the South and celebrating local culture, celebrating where the murals are placed. It's site specific. So the murals really relate to the community in that area, or it relates to the history, or it relates to the culture, or it relates to the future of that place in that area. And,
that's so cool.
Yeah, so that was the idea to do this program. I actually have done a couple international projects.
Oh, nice.
And the last one that I did was in Virginia, in a small town in America, and it's a very, very small town. I think Durban is way more happening if you compare it. It's a very tiny little town. And it was inspiring because these guys just wanted to bring artists to that town, and they wanted to do something interesting. And I went there, and they just said, "Wes, if you want to do it, you can't wait for something to happen. You've got to go and knock on doors, ask people for money, and make it happen." And I was inspired by that, and that was basically the foundation of why I started this program and invited you to be involved, and the other artists. SOUTHAPEDIA isn't just one individual. I want it to be seen as a collective of people, and maybe to somehow spearhead some components of it to make sure it runs smoothly. Sometimes when younger artists get involved, they might not know the logistics of it, so it's quite hard to make sure it runs smoothly. So tell us about you. So I really resonated with you because I think we have the same kind of ideals. Like, we both, I think, passionate about South Africa, passionate about Durban, passionate about doing something that has a positive message and impacting the community. So how did you get into videography?
So always when I left high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think I had a kind of idea of what I wanted to do, and I went and joined an internship in Belita, a church called Link. And I was involved in doing some stuff. I made a really good friend of mine, Simon now. Is really one of my closest friends. And he and I started being friends because of his communication. The guy spoke Zulu, and I was like, when I moved from Toti to Belito, I thought like, in my mind, I thought Belito was like no taxis. I thought it, because what I'd heard on media and TV, it was always been portrayed as this perfect place, you know. And him and I started chatting Zulu to each other. I found that he lived on a farm out north. On a really, he grew up with some really, he grew up with African people as well. And that's how he picked up the language. And then him and I started creating a relationship. I got involved in videos, filmed through that, did a little bit of production. And then at the end, so I did an intern year straight after school. And at the end of that year, I was offered a job at the church. And I worked there for 3 years, you know. And I was really amazed because I was like, I never knew any of these things that I'm doing 6 months ago, because I met this guy and I really decided to lean into him and learn everything about what he does. Now I sat in a position where I was offered this job position. A couple of months later, really started getting into it. Opened up a business at that time, what was called Hayes, and I started doing weddings. Like that was my main focus at the time. and then another lady joined me. Her name is Jade. She joined me on Haze, and her and I started doing weddings, and we figured out that I like the more corporate stuff and documentary and all of that. So we separated, and I now went and I opened up Snoop Media, and I did my whole documentary and corporate work. And from that, I've just seen that if you really believe in something, and it's realistic dreams, not dreams just made up, not just dreams made up, you know. And if you just focus, you can do it. And I think when I chatted to you, I was like, you just had come in at such a right time, because I was doing lots of work. I do a lot of work around the area, and I was like, no, I need a project that I can tell a story. And then Matt was like, hey, no, I can't do this. Please, can you do it? And that's when the whole mural festival came about. And from there, I told us, like, I had a very weird perspective of
what murals
were. So I think people would like to know, like, I perceived it as like spray painting, and you just spray paint and you run away from cops and all of that. So tell us what murals, and what's the difference between murals and spray painting?
Well, the main specific thing is obviously spray painting can be included in doing murals. There's a lot of artists that use spray cans that do murals. I think there's a difference between graffiti and what some people call as illegal graffiti and normal graffiti. Where illegal graffiti is obviously guys spraying tag names and looks really ugly and repulsive for some people. And then some of the other graffiti artists that have evolved and now do commissioned work. But a mural is really art on a giant surface. Usually a public space or a office building where it's quite big. In fact, a mural can actually be on canvas and stuck on the wall. That can still also be considered as a mural. But it essentially is almost like public art, where it sits in the public space. It's not like a painting that you see in a gallery, you buy, and then you keep it for yourself. It's quite democratic, where it's free. Anyone can see it. Anyone can interact with it. Anyone can be influenced or inspired by it, or repulsed by it. So that's really the difference. And usually murals are commissioned works, either if it's commissioned by a client or a building owner. Cool. So the artwork is usually specific on where that building is situated, or whether it's on some kind of surface of some sort. Murals could also be on the floor. It could be across a bridge or anything like that. So that's pretty much what it is. But I started off doing graphic design and then doing exhibitions and just for fun, and then people started asking me, oh, do you do murals? And I was like, I guess I could do a mural. And then just over time, just seeing how when you do something and how you can see it makes an impact in that space. It brightens up the space. People start talking about it. People take photos in front of it. So I really fell into it by chance. Just seeing how impactful that the murals can be on a space. It's not sitting on a digital screen. It's now sitting in an interactive environment, which is really cool.
Actually, funny story. We met last week, right, at Chapela at the point where the mural festival kind of happened. And then I went and filled. Remember, we took the pictures of the mural, your mural that you painted, and then I went and filled up petrol. And the petrol attendant came to me and said, "Are you guys back?" I said, "Hey, what do you mean are we back?" And then it clicked in my mind that all these guys by the petrol station, they had watched and they had they knew our faces. And then I said, we're just coming to take some pictures of this mural. And he's like, yes, this is amazing. And I was like, that's what he said to me. And I had a flip, I forgot to tell you. And that's what he said to me. He's like, this mural's amazing and it's brought color around this area. And I think that's what I learned from that whole time I was with you. Because we're in the Point area, so Chow Bella, the coffee shop around there, you did a wall, and at the engine garage, you did a wall there, and then 100 meters down the road, you also mook, and the guys did there. But what I learned from that experience was that, like, from you especially, you aren't making it to be seen and everyone being like, oh, look, so what SOUTHAPEDIA did. You're actually doing it for the community.
Yeah.
And to make, because I think there's a lot of people being pulled to the point now, and to make that place look really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that story about the Chowbella. So if you're around Durban, go around Chowbella and you'll see the wall, the mural that was painted there by 2 Cape Town artists. And the faces are actually the faces of the waitress in Chowbella, the coffee shop, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just, it wasn't about the coolest idea there. It was just about telling a bit of the story.
Yeah, celebrating local people
yes,
in that area that are working there, and maybe they'll move on, but they still, their legacy still kind of lives on, and it kind of helps them leave a mark in that space. That mural was done by Senor and Conform, 2 artists based in Cape Town, and Conform did a lot of the people that funded that wall, they were influenced on the idea of celebrating local architecture and some of the history of some of the buildings. Awesome. So he's got playing on the idea of celebrating the historic buildings, and then Paul was playing on the idea of celebrating local people and how those two can kind of blur into each other, which is pretty cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Mook's wall was a painting of the first train in Durban, and it was quite interesting because when I originally came up with this concept, we wanted to focus on like celebrating local history, celebrating culture, and what could a future Durban look like. And those ideas changed a little bit because dealing with the landowners, like the landowner for that wall was like, I want the first train painted. So it was a bit like, wow, there's like some historical things that you might not want to dwell on, like a first train, but it's still kind of cool considering that it was the first train in South Africa. And it's coming from the Durban port, and the impact of that train just creating jobs and how that is carrying cargo through into the whole of SA is quite a historic thing. And the way that Mook interpreted it, it was also bringing the contemporary aspect into it now, is with the taxi driver being in the train, which I thought was really cool, because now that's the taxi route, picking up people from work, going home. So it's kind of like playing.
So it's evolved into first train, and then motor vehicles and taxis, and then a conductor. And all of that. So it's kind of cool. It's playing on the past and playing on the future or the present, and I think it's really cool because some people won't pick up on that like straight away, but if you go and you look at the mural and be like, oh, what is that? And then you start asking questions, you're like, oh, cool, then you understand what he's talking about. And murals are also like, for me, I also want, people are so busy and so rushed, they're always looking at their phone or they're rushing, and I think life is quite precious. And sometimes we don't take the time just to stop every once in a while and just contemplate where we are placed in history right now. Stop, look at a mural, even if it's for a second, take a photo of it, and just let you dwell on your life and how your life can make an impact. I think it's what's so powerful is that you get an artist to paint a mural in a space that was blank, untouched or derelict, and it's just an artist, it's one guy, but he paints it, and that's going to affect whoever's walking past or who notices it. And it's also it's a metaphor for not just him and the space, but it's also a metaphor for us, or for people. We can all make a difference in any small shape or form, you know. And that's also part of the story of what we do in murals. Inspiration for me is like so important. If you have no inspiration, you have no hope. If you don't have hope, then there's no future in terms of like your dreams and things that you. If you feel uninspired, you don't want to wake up. I know.
Stay in bed.